You're
This is
more
true.
experienced. You're more experienced at this than we are.
I've only done about 300.
Perfect. So talking of professionalism, Shredder, should we kick it off?
Yeah, come on then. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever it is. Welcome to Cadence, Season 1, Episode 16. It's really great to have a guest with us today. Without further ado, I'm Shredder. I'm Ken, 51, and in the gloom, packs call me Shredder and other things.
I'm Keith, 43, and in the gloom, packs call me Flea, and I'm Nanton of F3 UK West Yorkshire region. And our guest today is
Shed. Hello, my name's Nick Bellinger and I'm 43. And you usually find me in the gloom of the highway. And
welcome. And yeah, it's not an AO I've been to. I am slowly working my way around the southeast step by step as work trips pop up. So I'll definitely have that on my list to pop in and say hello to you.
you're very welcome. Everyone is welcome at the highway, as of course everyone is welcome everywhere.
Absolutely.
But I don't know, there's something about the highway at the moment. I was listening to a show the other day where you announced that we had lots of FNGs, and yeah, we've had a massive growth spurt. I think we're into kind of adolescence kind of phase of our development, and now everything's spurting from everywhere.
Oh, it's still safe for all men to come to the car park, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Good.
Well, let's get go on, Shredder.
Yeah, go on. I was going to say
I'm too keen to get on with the structure, but let's wing it. Let's go.
No. Let's do cheese or chocolate. Go on.
Should we just point out to anyone listening that Shredder is a little bit tired after a week away and not having slept?
And he looks quite cold as well.
Well, when you go away, do you not turn the thermostat down? Make sure you're the last person out of the house. Wait till the M's in the car, and then you go and turn the thermostat down, right? So I did that, and about 20 minutes ago, we looked at our little girl's bedroom and saw that it was really cold in there. And my M said to me, "Why is it so cold in the house?" And I'm like, "Well, I've turned the thermostat down, so I'll turn it back up." But I thought I'd just dress warm. I'm trying to be cozy tonight. It's my kind of winter camouflage E17 stay another day sort of homage. Anyway, let's do cheese or chocolate.
Yeah, cheese or chocolate. It's our quick fire game of getting to know our guest a little bit better. So the format is we'll throw two options at you. You choose your preferred option. Give us a little bit of background of why you've chosen that option, and yeah, hoping to learn a bit more about you. So I'll open up. First question: baked beans or mushy peas?
Baked beans all day, but I was late to baked beans. I found them repulsive as a child, and I think as a child you're supposed to be naturally inclined to a baked bean, but I just found them a little bit peculiar. I thought they were like little small jacket potatoes for like the burrowers or something, and I was just very confused by the whole thing. But then as I grew and realised that it was a lovely sugary salty delight, yes, it's part of the I think, as you might say, the queen, very much part of my queen, if you will.
Probably some baked beans. Much better than spaghetti hoops.
Yeah, it's a concept that doesn't travel so well when you explain what a baked bean is to our European friends. Although it is well known. If I say I'm quite fancy English breakfast, they'll say, "Oh, baked beans, baked beans." It's always referencing the baked beans ahead of any other breakfast item, like hash browns
We're
or black pudding.
the odd people, aren't we, with baked beans? Because if you're going to have the kind of the cannellini type bean in some countries, you'd have it in a lovely pasta sauce with garlic,
Olive oil, and
olive oil and all that. And we're just going, just some weird orange crap in a can,
It's dreamy stuff, though, isn't it? Like, because they've tasted the same like our whole lives,
Mhm.
and I don't know how that's even possible. I often think about this. I'm like, they have to grow some of this stuff, and there'll be variability in the bean and in the tomato. So how do they do it? How has it tasted the same our whole lives? It's just magic what the Heinz Craft Company can do.
You know, McDonald's fries, they use the same potato. I don't mean like just one, like a really big one, and they just cut bits off. But I mean, it's the same potato. So wherever they have them, they only use, from my understanding, one variety. So I guess is that thing where, I mean, that doesn't do a lot for sort of microdiversity of seed stocks of things, but I wonder if they do the same thing, whether they've got this, whatever that orange goo is that baked beans are in, they must have a set. It's not like a rough cider where people will go, as long as it's an apple, we'll put it in. They probably just go, it has to be this much of the good bean, and it has to be this much sugar and this much salt. But you know what? They're so good. Like if I'm running more than a few K, tin of baked beans with black pudding and some egg, it's just like it's goat tier food. You know, it's got to be done, right?
It's the way forward. And I love how this feature is progressing, because when it first was introduced, I think it might have been crust. It was a quick fire and the whole
Right.
thing lasted 20 seconds. And now we're like into twice as long as the feature, and we've only done beans.
I know.
I love how this is evolving as a kind of fan of the art form.
Well, we're just giving the packs what they want. Yeah, the mission is plant, grow, and serve. We're just planting beans, growing beans, and serving beans to the men of F3.
It's the way forward.
I have to say, I'm sitting here as we were talking about beans, thinking about a potential dark helmet visit to the UK, and I was thinking to myself, in the warmer armor, as well as some exercises, we probably should try and give him some British foods that are quite contentious. You know, the 10 squats on my down, tin of baked beans.
Food full of
on
baked
my
beans. There you go.
He'd probably be like, run, get on the next plane and go to somewhere civilized. Okay, right. Couple more of these then, because you are right, it could go on all night. What about a river or lake? What do you prefer?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think there's something about a river knowing that you never see the same river twice. And that's probably someone fancy that said that. But I just find it very appealing, this idea of constant change and beauty all at the same time, as long as it's not some dodgy river that's full of litter.
Go with the river. I like rivers. Beautiful.
Okay, next question. Renault or Citroën?
Horrible choice.
I
That's
know.
a terrible choice, isn't it?
I quite like the Renault 5 Sport. I'm not really a car person, but I'm very familiar with that feeling when you're a teenager and you just want a really small and fast car. And you just think that your life will be just completely sorted if you just had a Renault 5 with very loud 6x9s and a bass spin in the boot. Life would be better. And I didn't go for a Renault 5. I went for I didn't. My father imposed on me a old-fashioned Mini that had been stripped out and had roll cages in and things. So I kind of had my Renault 5 moment, but it was a Mini. But I was more of like a kind of young fogey, if you remember that feature from TFI Friday. And I just wanted a really sensible car. But no, my dad imposed a racing Mini on me. So Renault 5 is my final answer.
Did he put the roll cage in before he let you have it? Or did it
No,
come pre-installed?
It was very strange. No, there was a guy, I think he worked at the same newspaper shop as I did when I was 17, 18 years old. And he kind of did up cars, like Beatles or Minis, things like that. And I think my dad kind of went, if I was 18, I'd want that car. And so he bought it for me and then did this really weird thing where he insisted that all my friends turned up. And then I got home from work on my 18th birthday and he put it on the driveway with some really low rent fireworks. And my friends were all livid because they all had other things to do. But my dad had been so persuasive that they all had to show up for this moment that was all for him. Anyway, therapy later. And then I just came around the corner and went, oh no, I really don't want this car. But it was a lot of fun when it wasn't in the garage or by the side of the road overheat.
Okay, I have follow-up questions now about your dad, but we'll just hold on to that for later.
He's gonna come up. He might be the answer to 3 questions if I predict your questions correctly.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. Because yes, Monopoly or chess?
Chess, because Monopoly, because it goes on so long, rarely does anyone kind of stick to the rules at all. And I remember I had some lovely friends growing up, one called Claire and one called Ashley. And I thought that I could stay on top of Monopoly if I took all of my houses and all of my money when I was going to the kitchen or to the bathroom during a marathon session. But what I didn't realize is that if you leave the room with all of your gear very smug, they will still just take money from the bank. And I didn't work that out, I don't think, for a good 3 or 4 years. And I always was like, why do I always lose? I've got all my stuff with me. I've got like all of the yellow ones in my back pocket. What could possibly go wrong? But no, Claire and Ashley, I know what you did. We haven't even talked it through yet, but I might send you this podcast by way of saying, that's it. I know what you did. You took money from the bank. And chess, I was all right at that as a kid. I used to, well, once again, my parents, as they'll come up again and again, they put me into Horsham Chess Club. That's very near where the highway is. And I didn't want to do that. It wasn't something I wanted to do. But my parents were very much kind of Thatcher's Britain wannabe kind of adjacent yuppies, if you will, which won't translate well for our American viewers. But maybe if you Google it or something, you'll see like someone with a giant mobile phone. My dad wanted to be that guy. Anyway, so therefore your child had to go to every after school club. And so my Monday night was French, then chess. It was very disappointing. All I wanted to do was watch Andy Peters in the broom cupboard. But no, let's do French, chess.
Maybe the mini was an attempt to redeem your cool, by your dad, after taking it away.
I think so. That is entirely possible. The thing was, my dad was quite cool, but always so drunk, which kind of takes the edge off the cool. So yeah, it was awkward. But yeah, I think he did try to want me to be cool. You see, what you need to know about me, Jen, is that I'm the sum of the parts of my parents. My father was like this drunk kind of party person who would spend most of his time in the pub or at parties singing and dancing and things. And then my mum is an academic religious person. So it was a really bad idea, them getting together. And I am what they made, which is very confusing.
If you're listening from America, the UK in the 80s had a 5-drink minimum, just as a daily amount, really.
That was lunchtime for Daddy. And then he'd pop home and then do some excellent work in his electrical contractor business. So many rules and regulations must have been broken if they'd been written yet. Yeah, and then he'd just do enough work to see him through to dinner at 5. And then he would eat dinner in front of the television and then go back to the pub again. So if the day was a pie chart, most of it would be sat at the bar. Bless him.
I'm afraid to ask any more cheese or chocolate questions at this point, Flea. Have you got any good ones left?
I've got a good one. I've got a
Go
few
on.
actually, but I'll fire one off. Sweet or savoury?
Savoury. I find if I've not eaten enough by dessert, I've made errors. That's kind of how I feel about desserts. Because they're lovely things. Don't get me wrong. It was Mrs. B's birthday. Oh yeah, that doesn't exist in this area. My M's birthday. Yesterday. Like a little bit of chocolate cake isn't to be frowned upon. But I do feel like maybe 2 portions of a main beats a dessert, I would say.
I'm with you on that. Definitely.
It's the way forward.
Puddings and mains have different stomachs anyway, don't they? You store puddings in your legs.
It's so true. And by the way, readers and listeners, I am in a hotel room. I don't have like a bougie curtain in my house like this. If I did, I'd expect you to have a lot of questions. I imagine there'd be letters, which would be appropriate. And also, I also have lots of canned water, which I don't really agree with, but I'm in a hotel room. They leave this stuff. Apologies.
It's fine. I've got a giant beaver by my head, so, anything's possible in this interview.
I already feel like this interview is not a lot like any of the others that you've done. They're all terribly grown up and macho, usually, but I'm trying to bring a little bit of comedic camp to the occasion.
That's good. That is good. Have you got another good one then? No, go on. You said you'd got a few.
I did. I
I'm
was going to
scared by most
bring
of
him at
mine.
this point now. Yeah, go for it.
Well, I was going to go with something a bit more highbrow to see what you would make of this. Paris or Rome?
Ooh. I've never been to Rome, and I'm in Paris a lot. I'm very disappointed that Paris isn't the Paris from Emily in Paris, which I know that I shouldn't watch and is dreadful, but I love it. And I have to go to Paris a lot for my job, which I haven't talked about yet because we haven't done something that might lead to that. So when I'm on my way to Paris, I watch Emily in Paris to get in the mood. I know that I imagine that there's probably like highbrow things that you could do that are Parisian to get you in a Parisian mood. But no, I just watch really trashy Netflix on the Eurostar. And then when I arrive, I kind of for a minute forget that I'm a middle-aged man with no hair. And I kind of think I'm a chic person. I will wear chic clothes today and I will impress people. But it doesn't tend to happen because then I catch a glimpse of myself in the glass and I just look like every other commuter on that train. So Paris for me, I would love to go to Rome one day.
Do you have a scarf to go with your suit?
I do. Yes,
Yeah.
I have a delightful little grey number, which goes lovely with the grey trouser. And yes, so that's a quite a fetching look. But no, usually, because you see, it's difficult to know what to travel in, isn't it? Like, because travel these days isn't kind of the glamorousness that you might picture from maybe the 60s. And so I always kind of think, well, if I wear a lot of the things I'm going to need to wear, then I don't have to take so much luggage. So you end up kind of looking like Joey in Friends when he's wearing all of Chandler's clothes. And I'm kind of like very bulky and warm and wondering, my life choices have led to this.
I
Wondering
have
if
that
you'll get
problem.
stopped at customs because they're wondering if there's something puffy underneath.
That's it.
Is that
What's
a weighted vest he's wearing?
Monsieur?
What, weighted vest? Yes, it is a weighted vest. Let me through. Don't smell of almonds.
Every time you mention a weighted vest, everyone has to take a drink because I've noticed that is an ongoing theme in the poll.
I
The
think
weighted vest mention. Hang on, drink.
our experiences of going to Paris would be very different. I mean, I've only been a couple of times, and that's usually to Disneyland. And at which point I'm tending to drive. But if I was picturing this image of you going to Paris for a second, I had the kind of last hour and a half of John Wick 4, where he fights about 5,000 people in Paris as he continually gets closer to this one point where he won't die. I was kind of thinking, yeah, Shed's going to be like, yeah, John Wick. And he's like, no, Emily in Paris.
100% Emily in Paris. I'm not even sure what a John Wick is.
You're not?
As Walter, first mention of Walter, I know that that's another drink. He knows every film. And so he's always doing stuff like that. Like, oh, you remind me, I don't know, John Wick in this example. And I'll go, because another bit of something else you need to know about me is that I have ADHD. And so I can't sit for a film unless, like, I don't know, I may be in a weighted vest and I can't leave. That's the only way that you'll get me to watch a whole film. So whenever
down.
people quote things, that's it. So like, have to kind of pin me down. So yes, no John Wick, more Emily in Paris, and often I will try to remember like some of the cheesy lines from it to text my ex so that she can have a laugh at my expense of the glamour that is Paris.
We do next. Send us an email. Write in. We want a letter.
I could fire these questions out all night. I think this is great.
I know, this could just be the interview, couldn't it? And this would be amazing.
I think we should
Look.
probably do some of the formalities.
I think we should guess how Shed got his name. You can go first, Flea. I have not got an idea currently.
I thought you knew. I thought you may have posted
No.
together in the past. I didn't know that.
No.
Right, okay.
I need to come up with after the last one, I need to come up with something creative.
So for me, I think it is something work related, I believe. And you are in the high-end estate agency selling multi-million euro penthouses, and you go to Paris to sell the high-end ones.
Oh, you were going to say Shed.
Or you could call it a shed. Big sheds.
Le Shed.
The Shed de Lange.
Tu voudras le Shed? I'm sorry, but you are not correct.
I'm going to say you were EH'd in a shed.
I was not, but that does sound like a delightful start to a book.
Doesn't it?
Now, is this the big reveal? Because what you need to know is that it was in Safari country, so in Cranley, Surrey, rather than Zimbabwe, and it was -4. It was December 23rd, 22nd, something like that. So the creativity and desire to stand in the circle of trust was maybe not what it would have been in June. So all I said to get my name was, hi everyone, Nick, and I work in a shed. That was it. And so if they'd let me speak a little bit more, I would say, I work in a shed at the end of the garden, and I work in learning and development. And most of the time I'm teaching people things over camera for a big drug company. And my wife threw me out into the shed at the end of the garden during her first maternity leave and said, I can't survive another maternity leave with you being all worky in the house. This voice cannot be something I hear to bring another child into the world. So me and a few friends built a little log cabin at the garden, and I started calling it the shed in homage to my paternal grandfather, who was so introverted that within his factory where he worked in the 30s, they built him a shed in the factory so he didn't have to talk to anyone else. And so like his area of like kind of production line, well, not so much production line, but he was like an engineer, techie sort of guy making things, was hidden from everyone else in a shed. And so I call it the shed, even though it's, I guess a slightly average log cabin, because of him. And it makes me think of him because he was a very unassuming introvert. And the idea of him needing a shed to hide from the world is bizarre, that I have a shed to show off to the world. It's got a lovely bit of balance.
I would love a shed. Have you got a shed, Flea?
I do. I have a 12-foot by 8-foot shed, metal shed in the
Woof.
garden. Big boy.
That is a big boy. I couldn't even tell you my measurements. I'm so comfortable with my length and width that I've never really thought about it since I bought it.
Most people don't stand up next to their shed looking at somebody else's going, I've got shed envy. It's
Yeah, mine's bigger than that.
Is there a word that
shed
Yeah.
envy. You're going to get into so much trouble for this episode.
I bet yours is warmer than mine, though. I bet yours is warmer than mine because mine's just a metal shed
So
with
warm.
no insulation.
So warm, but because this is going to be like a little, maybe a spin-off podcast, like Shed Chat. I was done by the advertising, and they were like, if you buy a shed that is 5 centimeters thick, you will be warm in all seasons. And boy, did they lie. Oh, how they lied. And I put all of my things in there and made it all nice. And then very quickly, everything started to break because it was so cold. And so then I did the classic thing. I don't know if this is a human thing, but I really overreacted and went and saw a man about some fancy doors and windows. And then he told me it was NASA level insulation, and I was into it. So he put foil everywhere and then an extra wall inside the walls. And now the shed is a lovely warm place to be, but it is a bit rotty. So the shed might be dying, which would be awful after our 10.5 years together. And we've done some beautiful things in that shed, but it could be time to consider placement. But don't tell the shed. That's why I'm recording from this hotel room.
Let's come to the hotel room.
Because maybe it's the end of times for the shed.
This sounds like what a convergence is really for. I do feel like, forget these calling it for birthdays and nonsense like that. Let's actually get real and get Nick a new shed.
I think it's right. I think we should
Right.
get hundreds of F3 men in my very modest garden, and we could have like a human chain from the
Right.
shed to a skip, seeing pieces of memorabilia, I'll sign bits of shed, give it to people who don't want it. It's going to be amazing.
We've learned so much from big events like Val, haven't we? We know how to carry logs. We can look manly like
True.
Schwarzenegger in Commando, which
Yes.
obviously is a film reference you don't get, but
No, I
No.
didn't. Isn't he
Carry
the
the log.
governor of California?
yeah, carrying his log, rescuing his kid, running off a hill and all of that sort of stuff, dropping the bad guys off with the feet. Yeah, that would be so much fun. Let's build sheds. Are there any F3R missions? See, now I'm getting you. You're just dragging me into this distraction.
Where
I
are
wanna
we
know
going with it? This is
got
Shed
any
Chat,
AIs.
everyone.
All men are welcome, right? So if you're Amish and you're not in F3, it's free. It's open to all men. Ends with a circle of trust. We could do barn raising once a month. It'd be great. Starting Nick's garden.
Don't know what's happening. Is Shredder having a stroke?
Lack of sleep, as previously discussed. We could do maybe like, in Chernobyl where they built the big dome around the core. You could do like a shed around a shed.
Yeah.
Like, so your original shed doesn't feel left out. You're still there, but it's protected from there. Yeah.
Like a beef Wellington of sheds.
What, with mushrooms and parma ham around the inside of
No,
the
but
outside, the
pastry
inside?
coating. Pastry
I mean,
coating.
I'm into it. I think the mushrooms are the underrated bit of the Beef Wellington, and I could see mushrooms growing in my rotting shed. I think it's the next phase already.
Off. They're probably in there, aren't they? Do you know what? I think some people are lovers and some people are fighters, aren't they? And I get it. You might not want to spend too much time naming someone when it's -4.
And that's
But
it.
at least we've had more out of it now, perhaps than has ever come out of that naming. That is good. Okay, so we know how you got your name. Let's keep going.
Right. I think the next question is, how did I end up in F? That the next question according to the structure.
No,
Okay.
it's not. Do you know why? I did the show notes for this show, and I did it about
Okay.
15 minutes ago. The Shredder's disgust. I can
told
already
me you were going
sense
to do
it.
this days ago. I don't like. I hate like running on fumes like this. I'm like, I would have been writing them about 6 days ago. Going, brrr.
Yeah, they would have been perfectly done in a great order, word for word, all perfectly mapped out.
7:30. He
Done
hasn't
to
sent
the
me any
details.
notes.
No, I'm embracing the chaos, as Dred talked about in the last Whetstone. Leading through chaos, sua sponte leadership. Let's get stuck in and just make it up as we go along. It'll be fine.
Okay. So
And then-
new feature coming.
I don't think Dredd
Wing
is
it.
as spontaneous as you might get told. I feel like he's a bit more thought out than that. But
He's
come on.
he's maybe thought about it. So, in thinking about the next question, you've already answered the first half, so you've already spoiled my planning
Oh, I'm
here.
sorry. We
Because
can edit that out.
okay. I was going to ask about your home location, your home AO, which you've already said is the highway. Do you get around the other AOs in the area? Because there's quite a few quite close to each other on that southwest side of London going into Surrey, Sussex. I can't remember which one it is.
I also need to make a correction about the idea that Reading is northwest of London.
Don't, because he just said you were southwest and he doesn't do
I know.
geography. It's not southwest.
Makes me sick in my mouth, all of
No,
this
south.
poor geography.
It's southeast, if anything. South.
It's just straight down from London. It's just easy. It's the S on the compass. A little S. It's straight down.
We had conversations after the Reading incident about the geography. It's fine. It's fine.
I almost pulled out of this podcast because of that. I couldn't deal with, and you let it go. I couldn't believe it, Shredder. Like, you're not the sort of man that I would have expected to like let something that slack go. I really didn't think. Anyway, so I live directly south from London, just straight there from London in a town called Horsham. It's a town that I've never managed to leave. My drunk dad and academic mother dropped me off. Well, they didn't. They kind of looked after me. They brought me down from Sutton or Sutton, depending on what side of the town that you lived on. When I was 1, to Horsham, and I've never looked back because mainly out of fear, possibly. But I also met my darling at the senior school. The good news is that we were both the same age. Sometimes when I say I met my wife at the senior school, they think they need to contact the authorities. But no, in fact, she is 5 months older than me and has put up with me since we were at senior school. There were some on and off moments, but that paints me in a bad light. So let's pretend like I had this lovely kind of high school sweetheart style situation and ended up staying in Horsham. And I didn't leave the town to do anything like education because, as we know, people keeping track, I had an academic mum, right? And so I'm trying to avoid being like her and drunk dad and threading this needle. So I avoided university, stayed in Horsham and got a lovely job straight out of college. And so that's how I ended up in Horsham. And then lovely Walter decided to put in just in what I like to call the projects or the Bronx of Horsham, which is known as Broadbridge. And I mean about it because that's where my M is from. My M is from quite near to where the highway is. And so I have to be mean about it at least once a day in order just to show how far she's come from the Project Bronx area into the main town of Horsham.
Fantastic. So, just to check, and I have fact checked this before I do say it. So, the highway is about 8 to 10 miles southwest of Gatwick Airport.
I think you might have that correct. Well done.
about. So that's more accurate than my description of Reading.
He's looking on the internet right now.
I'm looking
isn't he?
here. This is Google Maps right here.
You got your second screen on it, I can tell. Can I ask a question then about? I need to go back to Sutton, right?
Yes.
How close to Sutton Town Centre did you live before you moved?
I believe we lived in Carshalton.
Okay, so you lived on the east side towards Croydon, right? Near
I
Beddington
don't
Park.
know. I was 10 months old.
But you didn't.
Better.
Okay, no, that's
But
fine.
let's carry on this because you might be going somewhere.
No, I just wondered because Sutton and Carshalton are on our kind of patch for advertising for the Brook, and I'm really desperate to open up a. I'm scared now because you're not going to get the reference, but I really want to open up a Sutton AO called Phone Shop because you haven't seen Phone Shop, have you?
That's a TV show, right?
Right, it is a TV show.
So I can sit still long enough to watch television.
Have you watched Phone?
I'm familiar with it as an idea, but I
So,
haven't watched it.
It's so good. It's so good. And I love Sutton as a place. We go there a lot as a family. And Sutton recently got an award for one of the most welcoming towns around.
That is so lovely. So I think it gets a bad rap.
Well, I mean, when my wife, sometimes she'll wear sort of, we would call them jogging bottoms. So I'm not sure the Americans would call them not slacks, sweats, right? Sweats, maybe. And she'll sometimes wear the same color. And I just say, dress for Sutton, are you? Because Sutton is this place where everyone is welcome, and it is such a mixing pot of culture in a nice way. And we go there a lot. So I had a little vision of you as a young kid, sort of around Sutton, in the town centre, giving the old ladies bother. But obviously, 10 months you were not.
No, I'd left already, but I think there is a thread here. I think that journalistically, we could say that there is a thread between your anecdote and me, which is that I love a bit of inclusion. And so if Sutton is somewhere that's the most welcoming, inclusive place, that may be rubbed off on me rather than the South London street urchin vibes.
Carshalton is not known for its street urchins.
Well, this is good. This is good to know because occasionally my voice does slip into a little bit of London, much to my family's delight, and they laugh at me endlessly. And I say, but I'm from London, innit? And then they laugh a little bit more because they know that I left before I could speak.
Well, some of the packs who've watched Phone Shop, who are watching this, understand about the owl and all of the things that Phone Shop-esque. And we've got one Pax who lives in Sutton, and I keep saying to him, I said, Sutton AO would be good.
Nice.
And again, I know we'd still be some distance from you because obviously you're down from Gatwick, but you're not that far from Billingshurst, are you? Right?
That's true. The dump, as I like to call it. Yeah, I'm quite near the dump.
Don't think we're calling the new AO the dump, right?
No, apparently Walter's very cross that I've circulated this as an idea, but it is next to the dump.
I might
imagine the fun we could have with like exercises called the dump run and stuff like that. It'd be amazing.
message
it's
Sake
going
and
to
say
have
to
a
him,
more positive name.
is it going to be called the dump? Sake, if you're watching, you need to get a name by the time we interview you. This is episode 16. You're going to be on in about 10 to 12 episodes.
I love that guy. Yeah, don't watch this. Watch Sarkase. That's much better if you're going through the archive.
So what? Just to come back into Flea's question, what were you going to ask? Like what days it's on as well? Because you put about postings, or are you just asking about general?
No, I'm just asking if you, in the politest
I do
possible
travel
way,
around.
do you get around a bit?
I do get around a bit, Flea, and I can't believe you've read about that on Toilet Walls. But yes, no, I have got around a little bit. I started my life at Cramley, which will be an answer to another question later. So I won't talk about that. Edit that out. I've been to the office where Crust lives, and I've hung out with Crust a few times because Walter mentioned, take a drink, he opened that AO as a convenient second home for where we both work together. Walter and I are work buddies. And so he put the office there. And so I've been there about 10 times, something like that. I've been to the Link. The Link is fun, isn't it? It's got like a kiddies playground and lovely things to run around. And they maybe do chin-ups. That was very unfortunate and embarrassing for everyone involved. And I've been to the Boundary. Shout out for Cracker and Scrubs and Bones at the Gloves at the Boundary. Love that place. Where else have I been? Well, I went to the Crossways once. They are scary, those farming boys, but I do love them all. Shout out to Harvester and Chisel and Co. So it's fair to say I have got around a little bit. Every AO has definitely got its own flavour, and I think it's good to sample different ones. And after tomorrow, I'm going to the Landing,
Wow.
which is exciting because I'm going to be staying in Woking about once or twice a month for the next 8 months. So I'm going to try to make it so I can visit some of these local ones to
Nice.
Woking.
You must go to the Weo as well as the Landing because it's not that far away.
Isn't that Mr. Freeze's and Crackett's land? Or
That's
are
the
they not
bridge.
there? Where are they?
That's the bridge.
That's the bridge.
Bridge in
Right.
Walton. That's not far either.
I feel like I need to do the tour and see all the folks who have been kind enough to come down to the highway and spread their wonderful beatdowns among us in the projects.
I'll come and do my charitable visits. I'm working my way around each one slowly
Nice.
around the south of the UK.
Oh, we had a cracking one today. You missed a dance off. I was queuing today and it was a kids one. So we had 22 people, including 13 children. And I finished it off with a dance off, which there were shapes thrown that were literally disgusting. But it was all family fun. And it was not something I thought I'd ever see in it.
Because it's half term and you did
That's it.
a 2.0 beat down. It's a great idea.
That's it. Yes, I kind of did a deal with my my eldest son, who's a terribly sporty one, that obviously you can't join because you're not 18. Even if we do, draw on a moustache and stuff, it's not going to work. So instead, I promised to do a 2.0 session every school holidays. So look out for that if you're in the southeast or directly south from London, Flea. There is always going to be a 2.0 session every school holidays.
We're going to be doing a new thing. We're not going to kind of own it, but we're going to start it. I think at the Brook, we're going to start something probably called Unbreakable Rucks. So we're going to try and look for a 3 or 4 once a month ruck session for us and twos, and possibly one where we bring the M's, but they'll just take over. It's not going to be good. But I think our hope is to do perhaps something Alice Holty, try and find something a bit towards you and try and make the connection to at least, Sussex, London borders, possibly even go to maybe somewhere like Bracknell, try and get Berks and Hants as well, and do that kind of outdoor, rucky, just fun with our kids because we've got to invest in them, right?
Absolutely.
Got to do it.
Apparently, children are our future. I've heard that somewhere.
Good, that's a song. That's
You
a
see,
song.
I can sit still for a whole song, Shredder. I'm not saying that I can't make it to the end of Whitney.
How long
I
a
can
song?
sit around for Whitney. That's who sang that. But maybe not your John Wicky 4 or whatever it was.
You can watch in chunks. It's so unbelievable. It doesn't matter if you watch 15 minutes and then go off and do something else. It's good.
Anyway, we digress, which happens a lot with me.
This is fine. So you said that it's Walter's fault that you're around.
It is in so many ways.
That's good. I'm going to ask a slightly different question then. Why did you come back after the first session? Why did you return?
I've got a filthy confession.
You didn't.
And I feel like because you're a man of religion, you're the man that I can say this to, Shredder.
Go on.
It's because of the hug of a Tottenham fan. I said it. That was awful. I'm sorry to everyone that's watching that I had to. It was awful. So, the story goes that Walter had been telling me about F3 for 2 years. 2 years he'd been talking to me about it. But there were 3 major problems as to why I was never ever going to show up. 1, I don't like boys, subject to what you've read about me. Number 2, I'm also not getting up that early for an AO that's half an hour from my house, which is part 2. And part 3, I'm just fine. Exercise was fine. I like running around and, lifting weights, watching YouTube. It was fine. Everything was fine. And then he said, we talk. You do what now, Walter? I get all these gentlemen sit round and we talk about really interesting things. Now I'm listening. That sounds fun. And so he said, right, I'll stop going on at you about if you come along to something we call a 30-30. I'm like, ooh, what's a 30-30? And he said, well, it'll be really, really cold. We'll be sitting in a kid's playground, but forget about that. We'll talk about a really interesting topic. And I think the opening topic was something around like men being a problem, something like that. I can't remember the details, but generally that theme was in there. And so he said, come along. I think it's going to be a really difficult conversation. I think you'll have something to say. Awesome. I'm up for that. And if I go, will you promise that you'll never ask me to do it again? Because he came on my podcast a year before and talked for like half an hour about how like F3 was the best thing that ever happened to him, which was really annoying because I was like, well, I'm not going to go. And so I went along, and to be honest, no offense to the person who was queuing that day, the workout bit was a little underwhelming. I was a little bit kind of like, I'm cold and I'm bored. I'm just here for the chat. And so we got the exercise out of the way and then did this 30-30, and I just bloody loved it. I was like, this is great. I didn't know that there were like men folk who sit around and have proper conversations that's not about football, women, or beer. This is amazing. They're talking about real things. And so that's it. I think I might come back. And then the Tottenham fan, he gave me a hug that I don't think I've even recovered from it now. Strings, this is. So Strings just welcomed me into the garden with the biggest hug ever. It was 3 months until I found out he was a Tottenham fan, and he gave me this massive hug, and I was just like, this is lovely. I could get used to this. And so, yeah, I just kind of thought maybe this is where all the nice gentlemen have been hiding, because, you know, hopefully my previous friends don't watch this. They might, so I'll be careful. I've always struggled with groups of boys because they're not very nice, because the way that they speak to each other is to be mean. That's kind of how many men's group work. They find out what's wrong with you or bothering you, and then beep, beep. And that's been my whole life with groups of boys, even now with my old friends. And so when I met this Spurs fan with an incredible hug, I thought, wow, there's really nice guys out there. And so far, I think I've been quite lucky because I've not met an F3 person that I don't like yet. I'm still looking. So, you know, you can post your applications in,
You haven't
use
been to
your
all the
address.
AOs yet, have you? So there's still
No,
time.
exactly. I know that, you know, that there are some that I'm a little bit scared to go to. But yeah, so far, so many great people that I've met along the way. And I like the way it kind of extends beyond F3 as well, and how you make such quick bonds with people because of your shared suffering of having to do all of the fitness business that I'm not really into. And then you end up with all these great friends that you make really, really fast. It's a beautiful thing.
And again, if you think about it, the very fact that we let Spurs fans go to Beatdowns is
I
a
know.
massive reminder that actually all men are welcome.
Well, it's an inclusion thing again.
Yeah. They have to be included in something, don't they?
Well, yeah, certainly not winning trophies or anything like that.
I guess you haven't had Strings on here, but he is just a remarkable man. And his Spursness just kept going, because when they actually won something, which was a complete disgrace, he made me do a beatdown to Glory, Glory Tottenham Hotspur. And I've not felt clean since. My therapist is just having to like open extra sessions. It's just not right.
I just feel bad for them anyway. I mean, eventually you had to take that IKEA trophy cabinet and build it up, didn't you? And put something in it. You know, it's my mum and hello mum, don't say a word.
Hi, Shredder's mum.
They're both Spurs fans. I know, and I just don't get it, you know. I would say they look normal, but anyway, let's just move on.
Well, you would be welcome anytime in Yorkshire. However, you would have to be welcomed with open arms by a bunch of Leeds fans. So
That's fine.
that's fine.
There's only probably Yeah, it's only Tottenham, but
Yeah.
they make me just compulsively sick in my mouth. It's just awful. Anyway, but it's because of a Tottenham fan. I don't reckon if it hadn't have been for the hug, I don't think I would have come back again, because the conversation was good, but it wasn't as good as the hug.
Conversations are good, aren't they? 30/30s are. We don't even realize we need them until we start to connect to them.
They're so good. And another mention for Harvester, because I promised him I'd mention him 4 times, and that's 2. And because what I love about Harvester is he is a proud farming man who admits to loving cows and hating Microsoft Excel. But I just know that he could become like the greatest spokesperson for farming in Britain, because he's got everything that it takes to be an incredible speaker. That he has this idea that because he's a farmer, the two things can't both be true. And I'm seeing his journey of, you know, kind of becoming this amazing orator. And I think that the 30/30 does that. So 30/30 topics are brilliant in of themselves. I love the fact that there are guys shivering in car parks discussing these amazing things. But what I really like is that there's all these guys who sit there and don't say very much because they think that it's terrifying to speak in that setting. But if we stood up and walked 3 foot to the left or right, they would be amazing. They would talk, and they wouldn't be afraid at all. But the moment you formalize a conversation, it just seems to make people really clam up. So at the highway, you unfortunately are stuck with me as someone that teaches people public speaking, that I'm just constantly trying to get everyone to be comfortable in their own skin, to be able to share whatever it is that they want to share in a 30/30, so then they can go and be the best they can be in their careers, their homes, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's really annoying. But I have definitely seen an improvement in everyone in the highway, whilst I keep going on at them about, please talk in a 30/30.
So you've talked about being welcomed by lots of guys and everyone's very friendly within the groups that you've met and the AOs that you've been to. Who would you say is your best F3 mate?
Oh, that's really bad. You're going to make me make losers out of winners, because I've got so many new friends, and it would be such a cop out to say Walter, because we were already friends before this started. This is difficult. Who do I speak to the most? See, I've got an easy win there because I can mention Harvester for the 3rd time. But that feels cruel on the others. But I kind of want to give a nil return, as to not kind of upset Spock, Raw, Bulldog, Sizzle, Chisel, like all of my favourite chaps. So I'm going to say no one, because it's not.
That's not acceptable. When I say what I say in church, this is a voting matter. It's a yes or no, and abstentions get taken out of the vote. Go on.
Okay. All right then. If I've got to pick someone, I could not offend anyone by not mentioning anyone from the highway. And then that way, I am safe from the scorn of the highway, because, you know, they can turn in a project. So I'm going to go with Cracker. I absolutely love Cracker from the Boundary. He is just this, like, he hugs well as well, but in like a pointy way. He's like, has like no fat on him at all. So like you kind of feel like you're having acupuncture with his hugs. I like a hug. But the thing we love about him, and you mentioned something that he put together the other day in one of your podcasts about how he did like evening beatdowns and all that sort of stuff. And like he's fixed the backs of everyone in the region already. And he loves F3 so much. And like, I think like we were a little bit worried that he loved it too hard, too fast. We were a little bit worried for the longevity. I believe in F3 parlance, it's called a firework. I don't really understand, something to do with Katy Perry. But he is just wonderful. He just loves F3 so much.
That's a Walterism firework, isn't it?
Is it?
Yes. Yeah, you said that to me before.
I see. So yes, Cracker. Love that guy. And also, you can tell if he's okay. You know how like pine cones, right? Stick with me. Pine cones, if you put a needle in them, they predict the weather. Do you know have you heard this? Have you seen this phenomena? They kind of close up if it's cold and like, oh, save me. Anyway, you know if Cracker's okay based on his hugs. And so it means that he's very easy to care for. And that's really important to me. I really like to care for all my friends. And so the good thing about him is you can tell if he's okay based on the quality of the hug. So that's why I'm calling out Cracker as my favorite friend in F3. Sorry to everyone at the highway and everyone else I forgot.
Good. I noticed he does those regular back sessions, and occasionally I've kind of gone, could I get down there? Does that work from the distance?
How long's that drive from Yorkshire down? That might be worth it.
No,
your back will be busted by the time you get there. So it's
true.
It's genius, really. You'll get there and you'll be all twisted up, and he'll sort you out with his magical hand.
I was going to say, bless him. That is very kind, isn't it, to be able to do that? But I did think the pine cone reference was to do with aromatherapy, or whilst he's manipulating your back.
No. It's because you can tell from the Cracker hug if he's all right or not. That's it. The Cracker barometer. That's what we'll call it.
Right. I've got another question. I think I've got another question. This is one. Just make sure you mark this, because I want to make sure I say this properly. Because what you've written down here, Fleet, is what are your evolutions on the 3 Fs over the years? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. How have your 3 Fs evolved?
Okay. There you go. So I'll ask that question then.
I hope you're sitting comfortably, gentlemen.
Shed, can you tell us what your evolutions are on the 3 Fs in the time you've been in F3? How has that kind of evolved for you?
Fantastic. So an incredible question. And I think it's only been a year, so I'm not one of the OGs. I'm relatively new to all this. But I think the fitness one's going to be really easy to answer. It hasn't changed that much. Before I joined F3, I was doing 4 runs a week and 3 strengthy type things. I've got this weird metabolism that means no matter what I do to myself, I always weigh the same, which is on one hand really annoying, because no matter what I do at F3, I look the same, I lift the same, I run the same. Really annoying. However, I can also eat whatever I want, which I realise is a massive privilege. So fitness to me is so annoying because I really don't see any results. So over the last year, I would say I can definitely bear crawl further than I could on my first day. When I was in the delightful Surrey car park with the good people at the garden, I was struggling to do bear crawls, because why would I have bear crawled in my life before F3? It would have been very strange and probably need a different kind of podcast. But the second part, the second F, the fellowship bit, wow, right, this is huge to me. As I've said already, and I don't know if it will get edited out, so I'll say it again. I really don't like groups of men. I think they're an absolute nightmare, because I really like girls, right? And the reason I like girls is not the normal reason. It's because I really like how they can articulate their feelings well. And I love that. I love knowing what's going on. The thing I struggle with boys is always that they don't necessarily say what they mean, and they don't thoroughly explain how they feel about something, because they've got so much nonsense in the way and they can't be honest. So I've always really kind of focused my friendships around kind of girls, right? And so much so that my M is always very open and fine. It's just like, yeah, you can hang out with my friends or the other girls, because I just always got on better with them. However, I've found now that, as I said, in F3, I've met all of these guys who are just ready for something else. They do a little bit, right? There is still a little bit of the nonsense boy stuff that I really don't like. So, for instance, sometimes when you have people on this podcast, it gets very manly. Okay, what I mean by that, it becomes numbers, weights, measures, length, right? And I'm just like, oh, no, it's getting all boyish again, because that's the side of F3 I really don't like. Like, how much weight is in your weight vest shredder? That isn't important to me. Were you nice to 5 people? Love that, right? So that's kind of my currency, is like, how do you make people feel? How do you feel in yourself? How open are you to being vulnerable? How much do you know how your brain works? That's really exciting. And so I'm noticing everywhere I go in F3, there is like this desire to be more than just your average bloke. And I love that. I love that about F3. And I don't know what it is about the structure, but it's bringing out this different kind of men. And so, for example, all of these men come to many people have come through the highway already. And a lot of them, I don't know, have just needed something. They needed a bit of help. And their help wasn't in a Cindy or a brick or a tyre. It was in a conversation. It was in a saying, are you okay? No, really. And them just going, holy shit, no one has asked me that before. And we've seen some amazing results. And there are, I won't mention them by name, they know who they are, who arrived as one kind of man and are now just a completely different, kind of stronger, more confident whole person. And I don't know how much that is down to kind of something I like to call gravel crack, which is something I suffer from, which is when you're doing sit-ups on gravel and you end up with an injured coccyx. No need for that.
Oh, I call it a tramp stand.
Tramp stand, nice. And I don't think that that's why you see this amazing kind of transformation in the mental side of the men in F3. So, to answer your question, that evolution maybe hasn't been mine, but it's been mine to watch and enjoy, seeing how their lives have evolved and I've been able to help. Because I've been waiting for this for ages. I've been in training my whole life to find guys that need a bit of help with the things that traditionally were more female based. So understanding yourself, emotion, therapy, crying a bit, all that stuff. Love all that. And so I've been waiting for this. Every time I tell my old friends about F3, they go, you've got lots of projects now. You love projects. And maybe they're right. I love helping people. It's just amazing when you can just ask a little question or point something out about the way someone does something, and then you just see like the world open up to them. It's just incredible. So yeah, that's that one. The third one, I promise, is a much shorter answer because I haven't figured faith out. I really haven't, because as I said, I've got this weird kind of weird family dynamic where there's a lot of faith in the maternal side of my life, and so I was always a little bit kind of I don't understand. I'm gonna hide from that. But I do love how in F3 that it's this idea of something bigger. And that, I think that evolution has been quite useful to see how there are people in F3 with faith and they really do it in a lovely, open, vulnerable way, rather than like saying, I'm right, you're wrong, which is often what I've sensed in religion or faith. I love this inclusive kind of, let's take 30 seconds, whatever that means to you. How cool is that? If the world could do that, it would be amazing. If like everyone had 30 seconds to do whatever faith meant to them, maybe we wouldn't be shooting at each other. But now I'm getting a little bit kind of lefty hippie. Apologies. But that's been my evolution. It was all been in the second F. And you can keep your Cindy's and your straps. No, thank you.
Although
I've
straps are
got more
great.
questions. Straps are good.
So you said we can leave Cindy's and straps at home about the first F. So bringing it back to the first F, what does a typical shed queue beatdown look like? Apart from the 2.0 session this morning, what would a typical session look like?
Well, yes, you should probably ask some people who have suffered at the hands of my cues. So the most important thing to me is a story. So every beatdown has to have a story. It has to all make sense somehow. I think what inspired me was when Mr. Freeze came down. And I don't know if this is his thing, he does it everywhere, but he did this amazing thing where he played 5 songs. And the title of that song, all of those songs lined up together, was the message in his words. And my head fell off. I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Because everyone was really like thrown by him playing like Dire Straits, then Katy Perry, and then whatever it was. And then it read out this brilliant message. And then that made me realize that you could be creative. Because I think in the early days, didn't really see myself kind of being able to do a cue that made sense for me. Because as I said, I'm not really a fitness guy. I'd rather put on a show. And so that's what I've been trying to do ever since. My most famous one, do we have F3 in Germany? I'm not sure. Do we? Okay, so I'll tread exceptionally carefully. So Walter and I were going to Berlin for some work. So I did a cue to show our love for Germany. So I may have spoken in a German accent for the whole cue. I may have used my very small GCSE German to do some of the exercises in German. And the idea was I was trying to be quite high concept, which I realize there probably isn't room for this in F3. But what I tried to do was make a cue that looked like what you would expect an English person to think a German person would do it like. And then at the end say, and isn't it a shame that English people think that German people are like that? And everyone went, I get it, because I was trying to kind of challenge people's stereotypes and the things that they think about Germany. So as you can see, I don't think a lot about the exercises. I think a lot about the story. I've also done an Oasis themed beatdown when I went to see Oasis. I've done a football one, a cricket one. There's always a story. There's always a theme, because the most important thing for me is that people leave having had a lot of fun, and I like to put more effort into the word than I do into the exercises. So today, for example, was called Half-Term Heroes, right? And so the whole thing was all about we've just come through the coldest, darkest, nastiest bit of the year in terms of the weather. So kids, adults, what was the hard thing that you did that you're proud of in that quarter? And so we went round, 22 people all going, I went to school. I did a test. I climbed a tree. It was amazing. And then I kind of did some kind of reflections on what they said. And then I said, okay, so how are you going to be a half-term hero? What's the one thing you'll commit to in front of all of these people that will make half-term better, either for your fitness, for your fellowship, or faith? And went round. And then it was just a real kind of uplifting feeling after dance offs and other mad things that I got people to do this morning.
That's brilliant.
Thanks, man.
That is brilliant, isn't it? I mean, we often are chatting about different BDs and different things we do. I think you know that there are packs. I mean, certainly last episode, Crowbar was talking about making sure that was a really good smoking.
Yeah.
You want to hit hard, and I like that. But equally, why not be creative?
Yeah.
And it should be fun. I think some of the time. I mean, not every cue will want fun or too much banter. That's okay. I think if you want to enjoy it, perhaps more than the cue wants. I mean, I've seen a cue punish people before for giving them jip, and I'm like, if you want to, you can. But it's okay if
I do
people
keep it moving quickly. I think that's the thing that I noticed today, because I was quite anxious about there being 13 children, all between the ages of like 7 and 12, 13. And I just knew that I had to keep it moving all the time. So there wasn't a second where they could like mess about, because it was always right. Next exercise is that, let's go. And then even if like I was out of breath, I couldn't find my phone to put on, I don't know, Prodigy or whatever. I'd be like, right, packs, cool Merkins, go, and just keep moving all the time. And so, some might argue that it is still quite tiring, but that's not at the center of it. And so, yeah, say when a crowbar comes to visit and I'm queuing, I do panic a little bit. For example, I took my kind of kids football style beatdown to the garden as my return gift to the garden for getting me into F3 in the first place. And Safari turned up in weight vest, take a drink, because I knew that he knew me and that knew that he was in for a very easy day. So he kind of weighed himself down with as much as he could. But I still think he had a good time. And yeah, they all thank me, because I think the trouble is, particularly if you've been doing this for 3 years, if someone turns up dressed as a football coach, obviously there are outfits for my beatdowns, and whistles. I will bring a whistle. And yes, we have enormous fun, and people can mod up if they need to and still get what they need.
You can come and queue at the Brook, one of your Woking trips. We'll have fun. It'll be great.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm sure it will be fun. You can pick from the smorgasbord of my last 17 queues that have all got their own stories.
But that's part. So when we've done these not beatdowns, when we've done the podcast and when we do the beatdowns, I think each one of those things is an offering. You do it, and some people perhaps only ever have 2 or 3, and they'll just go back round. I've spent now the best part of a month listening to Parkway Drive, this metalcore band, because I'm doing a theme beatdown at some point with them. And I've got my 11-year-old trying to help me work out 2 of the songs with his martial arts training. Because I want to use bricks, but I want to use a kind of combo of martial art moves with the bricks. And so we're in the car listening to them, and I know what we're doing for about 5 of the songs already. But I'm just trying to make sure that I've got songs where they don't scream too much, because metalcore is very loud.
There is that. I have and this is a beautiful moment. The thing is, when you do something like that, the fun is looking for the reactions on the people's faces who have never heard anything like it. So I introduced them. I'm not quite as niche as you, I don't think, Shredder. I'm a little bit kind of vanilla. However, my lovely friend called Noozles, not in F3, but has a nickname, weird, it's fine. He introduced me to a Japanese band called Bandmade.
Right.
And they're a wonderful kind of quite heavy rock, maybe on the periphery of metal band. And they have an amazing song called Influencer. Everyone should check it out. It is phenomenal. They're kind enough to speak in English, just enough to keep you interested. Anyway.
We need a clip here.
Up here. And so I used that for I think my second ever VQ. And it is so loud and such a mess of noise, but you can pick out the English words in the chorus. And so, of course, that's when you trigger an exercise. But I just remember getting to the end and a few of them just went, "What was that? Are you okay? Is this a cry for help?" I'm like, "No, it's amazing. You should check out their album."
This brings us back to the Postman Pat thing again, doesn't it? You know, the Postman Pat BD. I mean, look, the reason I got hooked on this Parkway Drive, apart from the fact that they're smoking as metal, is there's one lyric in a song called it's called Sacred, the song, and this lyric goes, "You've got to live your life where eagles dare." And I'm like, I want to rip the crap out of people for an hour based on that lyric.
In a positive, nice way, right, Shredder?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's go with that.
My best.
No, but I want everyone to have their bricks, and we get to the end and we be utterly thrashed. And when you get to the end, you're starting with 50 reps or something. You know, you're not just doing 10.
I'll make sure that I don't pop in to visit when you're queuing. I think that's the way forward.
No. But I just like the idea of the story and the thought. I haven't thought about costumes.
Yes. Costumes are the way forward.
You've Spinal Tapped that, haven't you, and turned that up to 11. That is
absolutely. Like, because I used to be a coach of my son's football team, so I've got all of this like redundant kit with like coach on the back and stuff like that. And so I was just like, I've got to wear that, haven't I?
Could have been called Coach, couldn't you? If they'd have let you speak.
Yeah, I could have been all kinds of fun things. But I still quite like the idea of being a Parisian real estate agent. I think that you may have found like an alternative life.
I think we'll change your name to Monsieur Frank. Why not? Oh my goodness.
So Shredder, you're on about doing some was it punk metal?
Metalcore
beatdown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I went to see a different metalcore band on Saturday night. I love metalcore.
Because 6 months ago you were planning a beatdown with the best of Kylie Minogue and Danny Minogue. So
don't you say that. I was going to ask him. I was going to ask Shed.
Danny.
Which one would he? There you go, Danny. Sensible man, right?
Filth.
Danny any day.
Utter filth.
Danny Minogue is just so gorgeous back in the day.
Absolutely. And the scandals in the news of the world. Woo!
Danny Minogue. Anyway.
That was a good weekend.
It's a bit hot under the collar there. Reading those.
Minogue. We actually had, they were between the second and third band before Motionless in White came on Saturday night in Alexander Palace. They put Kylie Can't Get You On My Head And metal music fans have got such a kind of rep, but it's the most inclusive and welcoming community. And there was, I don't know, Ali Pali was nearly full. And all of us were singing along to Kylie and dancing. And then 10 minutes later, this band came on Valentine. My Valentine's Day night was spent not with my wife. It was spent with Chris Motionless and his band. And then they just rocked, and it was mental. Yeah, it's good.
Rock on.
I think we should go into the £1 million questions.
Probably a good shout, actually.
I think just I'm saying that partly because I think Shed's answering these couple of £1 billion questions might take him a couple of minutes as well.
I do tend to meander.
No, it's good. I'm just at this point, I'm going to say, I really want to milk the cow on this one. I want to kind of get everything out of this answer that we can, because I hope what you'll say will be good.
Yeah. So moving on to some £1 million questions then. I'm going to start. So looking back to 2 weeks ago when we were talking about potato-based snacks, and we were looking at the highlight of Shredder's potato-based snacks, which is the salt and vinegar discos. I'm going to ask, what's your favourite way to eat a potato?
That is a £1 million question.
It's a very good question.
I think I'm going to throw some love to my maternal grandmother's roast potato. And she didn't do many things well, but boy, did she do a roast potato well. I don't know how she did it. I've never had one since. I just think it was just pure, I don't know, appointment in those potatoes that tasted so good. My grandpa was not very nice to her, and she was, I feel like, every day of her life trying to figure out how to escape the house. And occasionally she'd make an amazing roast potato. And I think what she did, I think she parboiled them to the extent of which they were just barely hanging on to any form of shape anymore. They were like, I'm ready to be mashed. Please mash me. I want to be mashed. And just as they thought they could see the masher coming, no, it was a fork. And she would just score around the edges and like give it all these little Mohican like kind of grooves, and then put it in the hot oil in the oven. And so you'd end up with like these kind of sharp edges to your roast potatoes, and then the middle was just barely hanging together. So that is definitely the best way to eat a potato.
Solid answer there. What about you, Shredder?
So I'm just thinking about potatoes. They are the best carb.
They are, or are they a starch? It's very confusing. Different communities have different feelings. Or is it nightshade? Don't get me started.
It's a deep question, this. I'm surprised we've not done this one before. There's a variety of rich answers we could get from this.
Well, it's a big question, and I hope that one day you are satisfied with your potato knowledge.
Well, as long as you don't abominate the potatoes by making them into gnocchi, because that's not fair. That's just basically boiled slug snot. I mean, it's disgusting.
Just unnecessary.
Right. You've taken two very functional, useful items.
Yes.
Wheat flour, and potatoes. And then you've thought, how can I ruin them? I know, I'll put them together. How can I make it worse? I'll boil them.
I think you've come to a deeper point there. I worry sometimes I'm gnocchi.
Do you? Yeah.
Because like my dad was like the party boy, which is the pasta, maybe a fruzzoli, if you will. And my mum was flour. And she still is. She's not dead. I hope she's not watching this. I feel bad now. But she was flour. She is a bit more fun in her later years. But back then she was very, prim and proper. And so I'm just gnocchi trying to find some sauce to make me interesting. I think that's what we've uncovered there, Shredder. I'm just pleased you gathered all these loose ends.
I don't know. I don't know if you lack sauce. I think
I've been looking for the sauce my whole life.
As long as it's not baked bean sauce, we're all right. Gnocchi
Well,
and
look
baked bean
at
sauce.
that.
What a combination.
Hey, you're a pro. Look, I know this
Seamless.
is only episode 16, but you've done it. You've
Master.
done the
We've
full
got there.
circle.
I'm going to ask you, could you have more fun at St Pancras International or Charles de Gaulle Air Station. It's not Charles de Gaulle, was it? Gare du Nord.
Yes, Gare du Nord.
Yeah. So which one could you have more fun at?
I've had more fun in my head in St Pancras International.
You've had more fun in your head.
So much fun in my head. And it has Flea joined witness protection. He's gone blurry on my screen.
Yeah,
I hope
yes.
that'll be sorted out in post.
St Pancras has got a restraining order against him.
I've heard that.
It's Gare du Nord. If you heard about what I got up to in France, definitely not going there again.
So I have a lovely... You see, I can answer this in so many ways. I'm going to give you the adorable romantic answer because I think that I've given you enough silliness and smut. I think it's time that you had a bit of romance, just to, to give a little bit of light and shade, if you will. So I don't like traveling very much. In fact, I would say that I dislike traveling, and I have probably the best job I've ever had in my life. Absolutely love it. But the payoff is that people like what I do and make me go places to do it. It's so annoying. I wish I was rubbish and they left me in my shed, but that's for another day. Anyway, so I don't like traveling. So I have to get the Eurostar quite a lot from St Pancras International. And I'm always a little bit sad about it because I don't want to travel. I want to be in my shed. However, in my head, I always kind of have these ideas of the amazing adventures I could be going on. And ideally, it's with my M. And I would love to take her, to Paris and do lots of lovely things. And I finally got round to that this year. So it's our 15th anniversary in last October. And I was about to say doing a show in Paris because that's how I talk because I'm that damaged. I was working in Paris. It's not really a show. Anyway, and so I brought her along after the show had finished and she met me in Paris. So that's a little Gare du Nord thing because it was lovely seeing her get off the train and walk towards me and I was holding flowers. It was adorable. But the thing that really gets me about St Pancras is when I get off the train and I see that sculpture of the couple that meet and it says, "I want my time with you." Every time I see it, I just fall apart because I'm like, I've done it, I've got back, and I just wish that I was at home and having my time with my wife and my family. And so I get a bit kind of, misty-eyed, and I always take a selfie with it and go, "I'll be home soon." But there was something beautiful in October about getting off the train, holding her hand, and showing her the thing that I see. And it's just such a lovely moment to finally, after traveling loads and loads ever since COVID, to get to share my time with her. It was beautiful. So yes, I've had lots of fun in my head and in real life at St Pancras. And I didn't even tell you about the time I went to a fancy gin bar in St Pancras and forgot to pay. And there was a £200 bill. That was very awkward. The feeling when you realise that no one in your group has paid for a very expensive round of drinks is a feeling like no other. It's kind of like, am I going to jail and have I got away with it? All in a moment, and it was by accident, I promise. But that's another story, not quite as romantic.
My Em and her best friend have had 2 lovely afternoon teas because they both have birthdays similar times of year, and my Em's coming up to her 40th this year. And on 2 occasions, they both left together and been on their way back to near Reading and back to here, and both have said, "Thank you for lunch, that was lovely." And the other one's gone, "No, I wanted to thank you." And on those 2 occasions, they've realised they haven't paid.
You see, I've never really done that, but
This is a
I just
vicar's
remember.
wife, fam. This is a vicar's wife, peeps. This is what she's like. So now, they went to the Ritz this year. And I was like, for goodness sake, please make sure you pay. Because I can't afford to bail you out, Well, that sounds really nice. Thank you for answering that question so well. And it's good that you got to do that with your Em. I hope she appreciated it. She's not going to watch this. You can say what you like.
Yeah, she doesn't watch my stuff because she hates it when I talk about it.
Good.
Do you speak French?
Petit peu. Not enough. I have French-speaking family, so I really should, but they always talk to me in English.
I now have an image in my head of him doing a beatdown in a beret in a terrible French accent.
It's only a matter of time.
It's coming, isn't it?
I did it in August.
Oh, amazing.
I went on holiday to France, and I do speak French. So when I came back, I did the whole beatdown in French. The whole
Amazing.
cue doll. Yeah, it's great. Everyone's like, huh? So I had to do French and then English just for everyone. In. Yeah, it was fun.
Twice as many reps.
Well, yeah.
10 in French, 10 in
Well,
English.
cadence in French. Un, deux, trois. Un, deux, trois. It's good.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I
Nice.
think that's coming, or maybe the lesser mentioned Belgium. Maybe I'll do the French
Belgians.
side of Belgium.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Belgians have got a bit more of a sort of gutturalness, haven't they, in some of their words?
Well, particularly if you go to this is a geography moment here for Flea. But if you go across to Flemish Belgium, and they speak Dutch, so they're very guttural.
Very guttural. I remember having some
very
Dutch friends in
protectionist.
Wales complain how the Welsh sounded funny, and I was just looking at them going, "Are you high?" Yeah, the problem with doing Beatdown, I mean, obviously we've got an AO in the Netherlands, and actually we should see how they're doing, and they're definitely listed for
Road
season
trip.
2. Their road trip,
Road trip.
so good. Let's do that.
We should
But,
do
you know,
like queue exchanges where like because somewhere in the world someone is doing like an English queue in a bowler hat with an umbrella, and I'm here for it.
absolutely. Just worried about how much you spit on the packs when you're trying to say some of those words in those more guttural languages.
It's a danger that people are worried about the moisture coming from the ground, but no, it's coming from a well pronounced diction, if you will.
If you could invite any world leader, past or present, to your house for you to cook a nice homemade dinner, maybe some noodles, a pad thai, or some dish of your choosing, who would you invite over?
Wow, that is not a question I'm prepared for at all. World leaders. I quite like, is it Jacinda Ardern? Is that how you say her name? The New Zealand leader lady.
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying it right, because otherwise that's going to make me look so thick, and deservedly so. Back to my previous answer. I prefer girls generally, and I think that they would do a really good job of kind of running the world, because they haven't got to worry about weight vests and stuff. They don't worry about that kind of thing. They just get to business and get things done, and then crack on with everything else. And I just really enjoyed, from the comfort of my locked down shed, watching how she approached COVID. Whilst the UK was basically a snake eating its own tail with Mr. Hancock and such, making terrible decisions and PPE and all that sort of thing. She was like, "Oh, I'm shutting the door, and we're not going to make this any worse, and we'll look after our people." And everyone just kind of looked on and went, "Okay, you're being really, really harsh, but it's really working." But the whole world didn't go, "Well, yeah, let's do that, and it'll make this go away really quickly." Everyone just told her she was crazy and that she was doing it wrong. So I would invite her round for dinner, and I was once on television on the fridge of, what was it called? Something for the Weekend, or the predecessor to Sunday Brunch, with Tim Lovejoy, who finally has the same barber as I do. What you would do is you would cook something from there, what they'd done on the show. You'd do a photo of yourself cooking it, and then they put it on the fridge. Anyway, and that's quite fancy. It was a stuffed quail. And so my wife took a photo of me with this recipe, and I couldn't have looked more like Simon Rimmer if I tried. And so there's a picture of me on the fridge, a bit like this, and then they do a whole segment on, should we just have lookalikes making recipes? Anyway, I digress. I digress. And so I would make, just in the garden, my stuffed quail, and kind of say, apologies that we didn't learn more from you, and your best practice didn't spread across the world.
I think Kiwis, last time I was in, not last time, the only time, I was in New Zealand in 1993, 1994. And to get into New Zealand, I genuinely thought they were going to scrape out my fingernails and toenails.
Wow.
Because they were so keen. I mean, they looked at my shoe tread. They were so keen to not have things that didn't belong on their beautiful, beautiful islands. And I would, it's the only place in the world where I would move tomorrow. I mean, I'd miss my family, but I would, I'd go tomorrow. I love New Zealand. So she did a good job. And you didn't say your grandma's roast potatoes. I was kind of hoping they might make her.
Can't live up to the potatoes of either of my dead grandparents, because my nan gave it a good go, but she had the kind of more wartime lard-based roast potato going on. I feel bad because I got on with her better, but her potatoes weren't good. I'm really sorry if you get YouTube in heaven. Awkward.
Shredder, what's your potato-based preference?
What was that? Me?
What's your preference for potato style?
Lots of them.
Lots of them is into style.
Gosh. Lots of them. If I had to, I was really, really getting into those potatoes with the fork and all of that.
Honourable mention for a dauphinoise, or am I disappearing into a middle class hole?
It's getting a bit continental.
Back when I was fat like Elvis, near the end of his career, he made a few times. I made that. When you take the potato and you basically fry it in about 2 pounds of butter.
Yeah. The spirally Hasselback or
no, pomme fondant. So you take the whole potato. You basically you need a good thick inch potato, and you scoop it round into like a hockey puck, and then basically you melt about 2 blocks of butter, and you get that up to, you could put your enemy's face in it and he'd be gone, and then you just lower the potato in, and then you just let it just cook slowly for about an hour to hour and a half. I think the last time I cooked that for my the next day we woke up pregnant. I think it was pretty serious.
Wow.
It was good food. Yeah, pomme fondant would be goat tier, but I can't eat that. Like, just I'd get chunky again. I mean, you've got that. I think Dread's supposed to have that body type like you, where you can basically eat what you want, and nobody likes that. I mean, I get the downside. You can't sort of bulk up or something if you wanted to. No, I don't think you'd want to bulk up, but.
Well, don't get me wrong. I have snorted as much protein powder as the next guy, but nothing I do seems to mean. I used to have a housemate who said I had arms with knots in cotton, and I still think of him every time I lift a Cindy. But he's right. No matter what I do, so everything. I was supposed to say everything's the same size. It's not that kind of show, but yes, my arms and such are very much the same size.
Well, look, you can sort of rub 5 grams of creatine into here on your eye each day. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. Can I £1 billion question? Is that acceptable? Or please?
I don't know who you're asking, but if it's for me, I'm inclusive to all values of questions.
Okay, I've got a £1 billion question in 2 parts.
Oof.
The first
Probably
part.
should have gone to the bathroom first.
Maybe you might go to the bathroom during.
Oh goodness.
So the first part of that is, how would you address the depth gap in emotional maturity to help more men come into F3? Because you've kind of said you can see that there's often this gap in our emotional maturity. So how would you want to address that depth gap to help more men come in?
My first instant answer is to say one at a time, because I don't think you can kind of chuck a whole group of men into cold water. Well, you can, obviously, because that's manly and that's the sort of thing people do in F3. But mentally, I don't think you can do that. And so the way I've been busted recently, because whenever I see that there's like a kind of rough edge on a gentleman that I just want to kind of help them with, particularly the ones when they can't notice, I will wait until kind of the cafeteria is over and we've, gone our separate ways. And then I'll jump into band and I'll go, I noticed that when you said XYZ, you seem to be carrying a lot of extra weight than perhaps the average Dave would do when they're referencing, I don't know, public speaking, that example again. And just kind of giving them, and then just leave them a load of space, right? I don't need to follow it up. If they don't want to talk about it, it's fine. But just create this lovely little space where I've seen something or noticed something in them that means that they have got permission to explore something. And so they might go to their M and say, oh, this well gay bloke, Nick, he was like down the highway and he was like saying that all this shit about the way I stand in public and it's fucking wrong, man. And they will look at them and go, well, I did wonder. You do seem a little bit troubled when you're asked to stand up in public. And then they'll text me back and go, Maya just said that they've noticed it as well, but they've never said anything. So what are you saying? Shed? What is the problem? And then I'll go, I'm really glad that you noticed that perhaps this is something that we could talk about. Have you ever thought about how you feel when you're asked to kind of stand in front of all of your friends and, just share a simple idea? And then usually that's a beautiful moment when they kind of have this eureka moment and they go, well, there was this one time when I was 7 and I stood up in front of everyone and this girl was well out of order to me and she like proper gave me a dressing down and I was well embarrassed. And I haven't like stood up in front of anyone again. I don't want to feel like that. And then before you know it, you can start to rebuild. Once they've realized where the trauma is coming from and what the trigger is, trauma plus trigger, then you've got the story. And then you can help them to unpick all of that and understand that it wasn't about you, it was about them and all that sort of stuff. And then you say, okay, now we know all of that. What about next week? I'm going to get you to read out the rules for a 30-30. I'm not going to ask you a question. I'm just going to get you to say, no side discussions, try to keep, make sure that everyone has a chance to speak. And then they've started that journey of rebuilding again. So that's a very long answer to a question. I'd love to do something for everyone, but I think this is too personal and that everyone has their version of that. And so I'd love to try and get around as many humans as I can. And then eventually there'll be other people with similar desires to help as many people in the same way. And we might start to get a little bit of a multiplier effect. And what might happen is, say, I look after a couple of people and then they start talking and realize how easy it was to get over some of their struggles. And then they'll start talking to their friends and their friends and their friends. And I think that's how we would do it. I don't think we could have a big seminar where us three stand at the front and go, right, gentlemen, it's time to address the difference between our weight vests. I know that only 5 kilograms is in crowbars and that I have 20, but that isn't the real problem today. I don't think that's going to help. I think we need to get right in there to the problem one by one.
So if we had and we use the term in F3 often, perhaps wrongly. So if we had a role for like a growth Nantan, and I don't mean how many AOs can we get, because that's just a penis extension comment, isn't it?
It's a bloody number again.
Right.
Shredder,
Right.
you know how I feel about it.
I see. So I'm trying to kind of lead you towards a good shed, a prosperous shed. That's the sort of area where you've got a lot to give to.
Bloody love that.
Yeah.
Another way you can look at it is, and it's something that I say to people like Harvester, and that's so I've achieved my goal. And Walter, is that if I were a German, I'd be called a Königsmacher, because I love making people the king of whatever it is they are. And that doesn't mean fitness. I'm mixing analogies. But even though in my life I find myself on stages all the time, and that's an accident. That wasn't the plan. That's just some of my dad's stuff where I have to be showbiz and show off. But what I get the most from is unlocking people's potential. And it's always because of something kind of that hasn't been addressed in their head that holds them back. And so I just love being around people who want to do amazing things. And I can see that they've got that grit and determination. But there's just a few things to smooth off before they're ready to take that step. And so there are people that I can help go from like 20 to 50 as a percentage, and they're happy there because they've been living in like the dark of the 0 to 20 land, and they're just like happy to leave the house, right? Taking someone from 20 to 50, maybe helping someone realize that maybe they've got neurodiversity or something, and that if they just learn a bit about that condition, they'd understand why they felt different to everyone else. That's a 20 to 50 conversation. But I also love the 80 to 100 or 80 to 90, because that's fantastic. I'm this really annoying person at work when like these really important fancy people will come on stage, I'll go on my phone and I'll send them a message going, I was just watching how you presented, and I noticed how that for some reason, when you were talking about this topic, your shoulders went slightly further forward and you started to look at your hand. Like, what was it about that topic that made you do that? What was happening inside? Would you really like? I'd love to talk to you about that if I could help. And so I do it at that end as well. And people might find it annoying, but generally people come back and say, oh, you know what? It's because I didn't believe in that topic. And so I felt really uncomfortable. I didn't realize that everyone could tell. I said, well, not everyone, because most people listen to words, but I'm not really interested in the words because I've got this mad brain that is just constantly thinking about too many things at a time. And so I'm always looking for the detail. You two are very lucky that you're on a phone, so you're tiny, so I've got no chance. But generally speaking, in the world, it's I just love trying to see what's hurting people. And so if you're going to knight me as the psychological Nantan or wonton, as I like to call Walter, I'm up for that gig, and I'd love to try and help as many people as I can one at a time.
I genuinely, it doesn't, not to negate some of the things that we talk about, but even if you listen to things like State of the Nation and we think about the good stuff that comes out of what Whetstone's trying to do to help people grow, there's just I wrote down a minute ago that you might need a new motto, which is aspire to be mediocre. But underneath that, I also just wrote down growth, Nantan. And it is cool that we can say, oh, we're teasing each other that we'll never get to end season 1 because the AOs are growing. But if we're still sitting around with 100 AOs and we're not emotionally growing, then that's only a percentage of what we can be. And I kind of go, like, as I look at my life, I mean, I think she means it as a compliment. My M says to me, given how messed up your family was, it's quite a miracle that you're as together as you are. And I'm like, well, that's more luck than judgment a lot of the time. And I think my faith has a positive role in some healing from insanity. And like, you can't change the past, but you can learn. And you certainly can't change the past of the generations before you when your parents have just, I mean, my parents met and married in the 70s, and, I wouldn't be here if they hadn't, but they were done and apart by the time I was 3, so it takes its toll on them. And I wish one day they'd get better because it's no easy thing. But I do think it's cool if you have a 30-30 that's on goals or, acceleration. But I don't know, if you're just feeling emotionally, I don't know, like a tiny curled up hedgehog, then then I do think, and not that we have any sway, but to me, that's something that our sector needs, is somebody to help us to release men into because it's going to be a damn sight better for us in our homes if we're not curled up little hedgehogs,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one because I think the only time it works is when you're together, right? And that's kind of the annoying magic of the first F. I can see Walter like going, I told you, Nick. Sorry, shared. But he's always explained to me that the reason why that I can do this sort of stuff that means so much to me is because until you suffered in the rain and you have picked up a brick or a cindy or a strap, that you don't build enough of a bond to get the kind of privileged access to someone's kind of heart and mind to do the work. And he might have a point, but don't let him know that I said that.
We won't tell him.
Okay.
I told him after the last episode that I would encourage him to not listen, but to watch, because we've been watching back, because then you learn and hopefully you can improve in our level of amateurishness. But yeah, I do think it makes a difference to be able to kind of see what you've done. And he's right, sadly, for you. But that's okay. That is a price you will pay.
But absolutely. And yeah, I don't mind, the first part. It's worth it for when, you see guys kind of grow who, when they turned up, they were really suffering and now I'd love to talk about the person I'm thinking of. It's tricky. It's their story, right? But I love it. I just love it so much, and I'm sure it's happening all over the country, all over the world. That there are these guys who are like, this is my last chance. Yes, this is my last shot at turning my life around. And they just bump into, not me, I'm not a complete egomaniac, but the version of me that's around the world providing the thing that they needed. It might just be confidence. It might be, someone to, to run alongside, I think that's the magic. It's just the magic of F3 is that because it is so accessible, as long as you have an alarm clock, you just find your match, right? You just find someone who's got the skills to kind of help you with whatever you're suffering from. And it's a stunning thing, and I just never thought I'd find it at 5:30 in a Surrey car park with a Zimbabwean, but I did.
Stranger things have happened.
Indeed.
I think it's not a question for now necessarily, but I do think what you're saying, some thinking out needs to be done about how we promote and EH towards people who are recognizing that gap, because a lot, we're not going to ask the question, in the sense, but we've talked a lot with the other guests about how and we've had a range of answers, and we've talked a little bit, certainly when we talked with Toffee, about strategies to reach out and say, what tools have you in sort of put into place. But it might be worth you thinking about what sort of tools you would like to see us as a movement use to harness, to speak to men who are going, I'm not actually that bothered about the fitness, but actually I feel like
I can help.
Yeah.
Because I think that is a different bit of recruitment, and I wonder if that's what happened with me, whether that was the point. Maybe him, who's been mentioned too much, was trying to do that. He was
The
like,
drink's empty. Can't say his name anymore.
exactly. I can't say his name again, but that's what he was up to. Like, he's never admitted that to me, because I think that he thought that there was enough for me, and there is, but it's just different to the average bear. If he'd said, "Can you come to F3? I've got about 20 guys that I think you could talk to and make them feel better," I would have been there 3 years earlier. But instead, he tried to do it in a really nice way about fitness and about fellowship and stuff. He even made the mistake of mentioning things like Valor and GTE. I will never, ever do anything like that. I promise. And if I do, I will do it fully nude to prove that I've completely lost my mind, right? Because I would never show up and do that.
I'm going in the other squad at that point.
Because I'm just not into all of that boy thing, right? It's just too boyish, too macho, too Top Gun for me.
So it puts another term to the phrase carrying the log, doesn't it?
It really does. Not for me. Not for me. But I would gladly sit at the end, helping to make the teas. And at that point, when people are, maybe they're having their premonitions or their ablutions, I don't know what the right word is, at the end, when they've completely run out of energy, they've got nothing else to give, they might then be in a position to be helped, or they might have figured out what the problem was. And I'd love to sit there with a cup of tea, very warm, maybe wearing a knobby dry robe, and just like going, does anybody need anything? Can I help? That would be fantastic.
That sounds basically like what I do when I go and I'm a chaplain at Download. I just walk around listening to the music, and occasionally someone says, I wonder if you could help me for a minute. And I go, most certainly. Stranger things have happened.
They have. New GTE. No, it's not happening. That wasn't what I meant. I'm just trying to make a point that I will never ever go, and that's okay, because it's just not for me, but it is for 99% of people.
I don't think that is under the log that most people were expecting to do. So I think that's best left addressed. Well, Flea, what are you going to do?
Well,
this was your chaos.
I know it was my chaos, and I'm loving it. The thing is, I could quite happily go for a few more hours, but it is quite late, and you're queuing tomorrow morning.
It is quite late tonight.
Well, we keep saying we want feedback, comments, and we've had some positive feedback in terms of people saying they've enjoyed the last few episodes. But it really does come down to if you want to say something to us about it or something you'd like us to try, most of the feedback we get is minimal, or occasionally our lovely American brothers say something like, those in Cadence boys are smashing something out, and we're doing our best. But we're here. Fleet does the tech stuff and it's brilliant. I'm so glad. So you can see our email address pop up. There's a phone number too. You can, yeah, it's above, just by the beaver's eyes, just there. So there's the beaver. Yes, the beaver does have dynamite in its hands. Send us feedback, brothers, and anybody who's not one of our brothers, talk to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Certainly. And if you've got any recommendations for guests we should get onto in Cadence, please drop us a line. We are, of course, canvassing the rest of the UK AOs, and we've got a nice schedule leading us up to number 25-ish so far. Something like that. And then we're going to be on the hunt for the next round. So that will then be looking at some international guests, maybe. Certainly want to reach out into Europe. 3 sites popping up in Netherlands and close to home as well. So yeah, really want to get planning for season 2 underway. Just moving on then to welcome home new packs who've joined us in F3 UK over the last couple of weeks. AOQs and Weasel Shakers, please let us know if there are any new joinees, any new packs coming to join us in the gloom. So we'll give a big shout out and a big welcome home to, at the Weir, Lomu at the Brook, Rhino at the Bridge, Husky at the Garden, Skates, and at the Highway, Darn it.
Darn it.
Welcome home.
Welcome home. Yeah, please do share this podcast. Obviously, this is episode 16. We're trying to put the little short bits out on the In Cadence Facebook page, but share it, and been encouraging people from the regions to share it in their area if it helps to recruit, helps to get people interested. But share this podcast. Well, the sense of due honor and diligence. Shed, have you got any final words for us?
Oh, I love podcasting. Podcasting is one of my favorite things to do. It's such a privileged thing because unlike things like TV and radio and things like that, you can go on as long as you like, and you can talk about whatever you like. It's fantastic. And so thanks for giving me the opportunity to do so today. I have no idea how you're going to edit all of my kind of waffles, but I hope that you find something in there. And F3 has become something really important to me, and I'm actually annoyed that it has, but annoyed in the best way, right? There's a Jonathan Colton song about children, a song called "You Ruined Everything" in the best possible way, and that's how I feel about F3. Because it pisses off my wife no end, and it does make me incredibly annoying because I'm texting people all day and all night because I'm meeting all these wonderful people who I kind of really want to help. But it's absolutely brilliant, and it's given my life more purpose than I could have ever imagined, and I'm so grateful. So thank you, gentlemen, for spreading the word and meeting all of these wonderful different kinds of packs. Because that's what's so important about F3 is it's open to everyone and there's something for everyone. And I think we've learned today that there's a whole market out there for people pleasers and helpers like me who just needed people to help. And God knows there's plenty of them at the Highway.
It's been a pleasure to have you on. This may become our longest episode, and that's okay.
Cut it down. Make it a nice tight 20 minutes.
No, this is not going to be a 20-minute. But look, thank you to tuning into us today, wherever you are. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We'll have another guest from another one of our AOs, and we'll see each other at some point in the future again. Definitely, Shed, you're going to have got to come to the Brook now, and from Flea's traveling around, he'll get to see you too. But this is all from tonight's episode of In Cadence, and thank you for tuning in. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.